Hi, everybody. It is November 9, 2024. Hope you're all doing fabulously. Hello, GeoFactor 3. And yeah, to answer your title question, no and no. How sad. How sad. But that came about, the title, because we don't know who's in here in the cyber world. We hardly know people in our real life. We hardly know our friends, our family, because an awful lot of people just live a pretense. And if you live a pretense, well, how do you know who you're dealing with? But in the cyber world, there's a lot of armies out there, whether it's the United Nations or NATO or law enforcement. I saw Dan Dix's video on the RCMP monitoring everything on social media to scoop you up, dare you say the wrong thing, that hateful thing. We don't know who is who. Isn't that disturbing? It is for me. Tony Punch, hello. Analog Synth Player. Andrew Cruz, BMCC. Alicia DeMoss, Rods. Yeah, I saw something on Twitter about an assassination, but I think it was a previous assassination. Who knows anymore? Rage Against the Machine and James B. J. Northrop, Barb in Ohio. Hello, everybody. Yeah. So you had your hair analyzed, came back for heavy metals, high mercury, and aluminum, disturbing arsenic levels. Oh boy. Well, no doubt an awful lot of us have the same thing. Patricia White, hello. Angelos, Hypocrites Matrix. Amber Eyes, Miss Blanche, hi. Marlowe, and Grout Sees What You Want. Test All Spirits, and you're 90% better. That's good. Very good. Nice to hear. Tonette, hello. I don't see Sandra Inge, may come in later or might watch the replay. If you do, I did take your donation from my PayPal and put it in Max's GoFundMe. I hope we see Max because I would like him to thank Sandra. Well, let's see. Marlo, hello. Your tap water is super high in arsenic. Wow. And James B., you think so? You think so? What are you referring to? And while you're about to answer, hopefully, let's just check out radar. All right, this has been quite the weather front that we've had. Now, do you see this circular manner that, well, I guess this precipitation, this band of precipitation, this was the storm that was going for days, okay? And here in Louisiana, they are holding the heavier rain, because this has been all day, heavier rain for you guys in Louisiana. They're holding it in position, not letting it move on. Right here, you see the Doppler radar pulse. But let me show you what I captured earlier, which was just It's wild. I mean, you're kidding. It was heavier, the rain. What time was this? It was 2:32 p.m. my time, Idaho. And it's still being held in place. Yeah, the real funky cloud. It's bizarre. Well, what is this? What is going on in the Gulf? Because I showed you the forecast on Tidbits, 2 days ago, and they were literally just destroying Hurricane Raphael. What then is this? Are they bringing in, or have they created another tropical storm for you? It's hard to tell what they're doing. But as you can see, the microwaves on the periphery right here, microwaves throughout this circling weather front that has just been expanding itself for days. You can see the microwaves down here. It ain't quite right. Oh, wow. So, now radar is not picking up this, or at least not this site, but wow, satellite is, huh? Look at that. So what do we have here? Well, we have very severe weather. We've got thunderstorms in the Gulf. Where did it come from is what I would like to know. And this very, very expansive hurricane. Yeah. Well, let's look at radar here, College Up to Page. And why are we... Okay. As you can tell, radar is not picking up that huge mass of thunderstorms. So what are they doing? I have heard that they can manufacture satellite, but not radar. So is that what we're looking at? Because it's not even on the forecast model. As you can see, that was supposed to be, we're now in November 13. Where is it? And if you're not looking down here in the Gulf, this is where you should be looking. It's nowhere to be found. Okay. So I'm going to put the link to College of DuPage in the chat. Because somebody asked for the links. And this is the other radar site that I use, Tempest, out of University of Wisconsin. And no active severe weather warnings. Okay, so Yeah. This is why I say bookmark the radar sites, bookmark the alert sites, so you check them, because wow, their forecasts do change an awful lot. So all of the links are in the chat. And I still can't get over what's happening here in South Carolina. Wasn't on my radar, wasn't on radar, but here we have massive flooding.
Heavy overnight rains in Orangeburg and Calhoun counties have led to flooded roads, damaged bridges, and over 100 road closures. That's in addition to a disruption of water services in western Orangeburg County and schools in both counties either being delayed or closed on Thursday. Rain began moving through the area Wednesday night and continued into Thursday morning, with some radar estimates suggesting 12 to 15 inches of rain could have fallen in some areas of Orangeburg.
It could have fallen, or maybe something else is going on. This apparently is the rivers flooding. Oh, God. I just...
County within a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
At one point, a flash flood warning was issued for much of Orangeburg and part of Calhoun County. Thursday morning, Orangeburg County Emergency Operations released a list of over 100 roads that have been closed throughout the county due to flooding issues. Here is a link to that list. There are unconfirmed references in that list to possible damage to dams and bridges.
That tree right there about to fall down.
News 19 talked to Adam Livingston with the Silver Springs Water District after reports of a disruption of water service in Neeses in Orangeburg County. Silver Springs supplies water service and fire protection to rural areas of western Orangeburg County, including the towns of Livingston and Neeses. Livingston said crews were out assessing the damage to the water system caused by the heavy rain and flooding. He said the main damage is coming from overflow of ponds and dams where rushing water has caused lines to break. Crews are having to wait for the water to recede before they can begin repairs to the main water lines that are visible. Then, he says, the water company will have to wait for the county or SC Department of Transportation to begin repairing the roads before repairs to the lines that are buried under the roads. There will also be a period where service will have to be cut to customers so that pressure can build back up in the lines, returning service to normal. Livingston says the entire process could take days to complete. He asks for patience while repairs are made. Earlier Thursday morning, the heavy rains also led school districts to change their plans. Orangeburg County School District administrators first announced a 3-hour delay Thursday morning in an email around 7 a.m.
I will post the link. You can watch the remainder. But really, okay, so is it a shocker? Not so much, because we have seen this before in North Carolina and other places in the country. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but nowhere on the radar, and suddenly you just come across of, oh, wow, another area is flooded. Why? Hey, Mama Rages. Okay, people really need to start asking questions. Wyoming sky, Mike Decker, look at this. Oh, but don't you even think for a second that maybe our weather has something to do with what they're doing in the atmosphere? Oh, don't burden yourself. Unburden yourself with what has been and what will be coming about. Just claim that this is a beautiful sunset.
November 9th, 2024. Heavy chemical spraying continues. I'm feared.
Okay, link is in the chat. If you haven't already, I recommend subscribing to Mike Decker. It's look, we're watching mass destruction with the use of weapons of mass destruction all over the place. People really suffering the consequences of what they're doing. And then you have the people who just ignore what is right smack in front of them. Tilt your head up. Okay. Rafael did hit Cuba.
The 17th named storm of the season has affected 10 million people in Cuba. Rafael packed 185 kilometers an hour winds, which uprooted trees and damaged homes. Life is slowly coming back to the deserted streets of Havana. Most businesses, transport services, and schools were closed as the hurricane made landfall on Wednesday.
Imagine what my husband and my daughter went through here. The metal roof sheets were flying off. When everything calmed down a bit, we managed to get out of here. We were very scared. We had never been through a storm inside a house before. The important thing is that we are alive.
I have never seen this in 61 years. Yesterday was my birthday, and I had a very sad birthday because I saw the stadium falling apart, the towers falling down, and the roof tiles flying around. I have never seen that in my life, ever.
It's the third major power outage in just a couple of weeks. Rafael uprooted poles and damaged transmission lines. That's after Hurricane Oscar and another power failure due to aging infrastructure. There's been criticism of the government for failing to provide essential services.
We are going to.
If you want to watch the remainder, the link is in the chat. Go ahead. Max, hi. I don't think Sandra is in the chat. So just keep an eye out for her. Yeah, so 6 weeks later, the work is nowhere near done in Western North Carolina.
6 weeks ago today, a hurricane set its sights on the North Carolina mountains and left a lasting mark, a scar that spread hundreds of miles, impacting countless families, businesses, and livelihoods.
102 people have been confirmed dead and several are still missing. Now,
see how they downplay the numbers? Also, on another news broadcast, I heard that it was 125,000 homes. 125,000 homes, a whole lot of them destroyed. And those that weren't completely destroyed, affected, damaged. Did he say 102 people dead?
6 weeks later, we went back to some of the hardest hit areas to see how they're doing. Box by box, Alan Cunningham is sifting through his waterlogged belongings.
Everything's still wet after 30 days.
The shed behind his house held years worth of stuff, now caked in mud after Helene flooded his Yancey County property. He was in his house when the storm hit.
When I saw it at 6:30 Friday morning, it was no big deal.
Yeah.
At 7:30, it was 5 feet deep in here. And me and the dog were up on the stairs, upstairs.
His neighbor took these startling pictures. With water filling his home, Cunningham admits
I was at peace. I'm a strong believer in God, and He's going to take care of me. And if I go or I stay, I'm fine.
also taking care of him in the days that followed, Samaritan's Purse volunteers who just showed up one day and emptied out his entire first floor.
And then they proceeded to tear down the paneling, the sheetrock, and pull the floors up. And then they sprayed the whole house with mold before they left 2.5 days later.
He says he's grateful for the help and focused on rebuilding. Driving through the mountains, it's easy to see much of the damage remains. Even more than a month later, some areas look like Helene just hit. It's not for a lack of help. Everywhere we looked, we saw teams of people working to get things back to normal. An hour west in the small town of Marshall, the National Guard is very visible right now.
A lot of what you hear in the background is the big trucks now that are moving. They're washing the streets. They're emptying the basements. They want to work.
Chris Worley manages Shady Side Florist.
All of our materials, all of our stations, all of our equipment, 50 years of business was gone overnight.
Rising water filled the buildings downtown until the pressure couldn't hold anymore, shattering storefront windows.
And it basically just flushed everything like a toilet, took everything out of the buildings and down the river. That white sign is our shop.
Photos immediately after the storm are alarming when you see how the town along the French Broad River normally looks.
Get set.
Photos have also been top of mind for Sarah Decker.
Got it. It's a real honor to be able to make art during this difficult time.
The local artist is taking tintype photographs around town, printing photos onto metal, giving them an old classic look.
I'm doing the same technology that would have been used during the 1916 flood.
She says she wanted to do something for the town after Helene destroyed an art studio where she worked.
I kind of just put my darkroom in the back of my Subaru and drove down here last week.
Countless others have felt called to help, like in Swannanoa, where volunteers feed storm victims every day.
We don't have a grocery store locally, so we're just really grateful to be relying on the good nature of our community to feed us.
Rebecca Danzinger is on both sides. She's helping get people back on their feet while also needing help from others.
We are completely relying on the water that's being provided right here. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do anything, wash our hands and prepare small meals or even coffee in our homes.
There aren't as many resources here, so it feels like it's going to be a long, long stay in this site.
Amanda Frisk Krause is one of the workers who transformed Blunt Pretzels into a daily feeding site. It hasn't been easy, both physically and emotionally.
We served a family funeral that had 11 family members die. Just one family.
It's a sobering reminder of the devastation that spreads across dozens of counties and a reality that life will not get back to normal for a while.
Our water's still coming out brown, so I feel until we have security around water, I don't think it's going to really feel better.
Even with so much left to do 6 weeks later, many are remaining optimistic.
Every day we get something done and go from there.
Appreciative for the help and for their neighbors.
I'm definitely heart focused and wearing my heart on my sleeve, and I just want to give people hugs a lot of the time.
Every day has been a good progression. I got nothing to complain about.
Wow. No, you get affected by these weather events, you're not going to be just able to get back to normal, not for a long time. But boy, when I saw this video, I just thought to myself, the success rate of the evil is pretty intense. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have listened to Deborah Tavares and other people who have been talking about they wanting everybody off the coasts, not just Florida, but everywhere, right? Here, abandoning the coast, where to rebuild and where to let nature take over.
One of the most expensive and devastating hurricane seasons in Florida in the past 100 years, and climate scientists are already drawing some conclusions.
ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska explains how they're studying the impact on our barrier islands to determine what needs to change.
It's tough to see this destruction here on Manasota Key. It was one of the hardest hit areas from Hurricane Milton. This home, the only thing that remains really is like a closet and that bathroom. You see the toilet, the house next door wiped off the slab. And we're talking to experts who tell me we just can't rebuild the coastline the way we used to.
You know, in Florida, it's just going to become more and more difficult to maintain infrastructure and utilities on our barrier islands. It just is. Barrier islands are dynamic. It's not just can we build Fort Knox that would go to sea and be fine. You don't spend money in places where you're throwing it into the Gulf. Spend the money in the places that we can protect over the longer term. And that's how you preserve the coastal economy.
The images we've captured during all of these storms paints an ominous portrait of our present, past, and future.
We can't hold 3,000 plus miles of ocean shoreline in the U.S. and tens of thousands of estuarine shoreline in place forever.
Robert Young is a director of the program for the study of developed shorelines at Western Carolina University.
Well, I think I'll put the link in the chat should you want to hear more about climate change.
One of the most expensive and devastating hurricane seasons in Florida in the past 100 years, and climate scientists are already drawing some conclusions.
ABC Action News reporter Michael Paluska explains how they're studying the impact on our barrier islands to determine what needs to change.
It's tough to see this destruction here on Manasota.
Sell all of your property, get out of anything that is close. I mean, this is really shuffling the population about. This is moving populations into cities where they're more easily monitored, surveilled, controlled, and the infrastructure is out there doing it as I speak.
Many of us are under surveillance at this very moment. No warrants are needed and no laws are broken. The most obvious culprit is all the cameras, and America has as many surveillance cameras per person as communist China. Police departments from New York to LA are combining these cameras with facial recognition technology to track everyone. You're also giving away your personal information about where you are, what you like, even about your mental health, without even realizing it. Every click, purchase, and like is harvested and sold for profit by data brokers, feeding a growing digital advertising market that is close to $1 trillion in value. Even your car tire sensors allow you to be tracked. Byron Tao is the author of Means of Control.
A lot of that data ends up in the hands of data brokers, and those data brokers make that data available for sale to researchers, to marketers, to companies, and even to governments. So it's very, very difficult to escape the kind of logging and surveillance that modern technology brings along with it.
It's being called surveillance capitalism.
The internet is now a prison. It's a surveillance prison. It is owned and operated by private capital.
They want access to our contacts. They want access to our calendars. Well, lots of app developers take that information and they suck it up. They vacuum it up. They know who your friends are. They know where you go. So that kind of information is available for sale.
Your data is also being sold to the police and the federal government. A product called Fog Reveal allows police to create what are called patterns of life on a person and to possibly track them without a warrant. The government is also continuing to use a backdoor in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, to spy on Americans, which is supposed to be illegal. But what really bothers Dave Moss, the Director of Investigations at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, are all the license plate readers used by police.
This is one of the most pernicious and offensive technologies in the United States. It is misrepresented to the public in such a way that people think it's doing one thing when it's actually doing another. So for your audience, License plate readers are cameras that take a picture of your car and digitize the license plate as well as other elements to it, your bumper sticker, the color, make, model, year, whether you have damage to your vehicle, and uploads that to a central database along with where your car was seen and when. So a police officer can sit down at a computer and type in your license plate and see everywhere across the country that your vehicle was caught on camera, sometimes going back years and years and years.
The license plate reader went off on it and said it was a driver's license restraint. So it looks like on here, so she has a suspended driver's license.
That can be on any screen on the computer, and if it hits on a license plate, it'll pop up.
It doesn't matter whether you are tied to a crime or not, they're capturing it on everyone. And that allows them to track you in real time. They can add you to a watch list and just watch you and get alerts every time you pass a camera.
A Duke University study found that data brokers are also selling lists of people with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and PTSD, all harvested from medical apps and websites. Constitutional attorney John Whitehead says this is all a clear violation of the Constitution's ban on unreasonable searches and seizures.
The Fourth Amendment's dead because on their phones and their laptops, they have all this information on you. It's called predictive policing, and they're watching everything people are doing.
There have been some ingenious attempts to thwart facial recognition. However, none of these work. The surveillance of Americans is an issue that should unite both the political right and left, because we're all losing an important constitutional protection.
If you care about something, then you should be worried about surveillance. I don't care what the issue is that you care about. It could be gun rights. It could be the rights of Palestinians. If you care about something, surveillance is going to harm your rights.
We asked the FBI if it's still buying the data of Americans. It did not respond. The question is, can Americans roll back the surveillance state when data harvesting is now such a large part of the economy and so little is being done to stop it? The issue has been raised on Capitol Hill, but a new law this year only protects Americans' data from being sold to some foreign governments. Tao says consumers need to realize that most of the apps on their phone are trying to gather data to be sold. Beware of granting apps location permissions. Use only encrypted messaging services and search engines that promise not to track you. You can also delete your phone's advertising ID, which can be used to track your habits and movements. And you can buy services that remove your data from the marketplace. For there to be any fundamental return to privacy in America, however, experts say Americans are going to have to demand more change from Washington. Dale Hurd.
Americans. Oh, but what was the thing that everybody was saying years ago? Well, I have nothing to hide. I'm not a criminal. Privacy is very important in a free country. The surveillance has been taking place for a very, very long time. And all of these, you can go on your phone and you can opt out of. I don't think you can opt out of any of this. I really don't. I think these software companies that are providing people with either encrypted services or, oh, we will protect all of your information. I don't believe it. Not when we have already been told Microsoft provides a back door into their computers. 90% of the world's population uses Microsoft. Now, whether or not Apple unfortunately has become something that everybody should be, if you have an Apple, if you have, an iPhone, then yeah, they have gotten into Apple as well. So, we're there already. Come on, we're trapped. Fourth Amendment dead. John Whitehead. The and I can't remember his website name, something Institute. Okay. I've recommended that people bookmark John Whitehead's, especially for his commentaries that he writes out, letting you know that, first of all, it doesn't matter who is the president. Everything will continue on. And no, we're not a free country. But we are a crazy country. So this is on ABC. 3 people have been charged in an alleged Iran-linked plot to assassinate Trump, President-elect Trump, an Iranian-American activist, and 2 Jewish Americans living in New York, according to a criminal complaint unsealed Friday in New York. So I think that was the assassination that took place, a while ago. Who the hell knows? We don't know. This is from our intelligence agencies. You believe them? Are they on your side? Can you trust that you won't be betrayed by them? I hope you're saying no, not at all. And Antifa, they're out. Seattle. Oh my God.
Trump's racist and anti-migrant rhetoric throughout this election is promising the largest mass deportation
And Antifa now here, Black Bloc waiting.
has ever seen. Promising to Trump's racist and anti-migrant rhetoric.
Don't you wish people could learn how to listen? Learn how to listen. Now, I think all of you know, no, I don't trust Trump. And I stopped voting in, when was it? 2012. Said, that's it. No more. Obama showed me who he is. No more. They're all the same. But this whole racist, they won't get off that. Now, when you see how many Black Americans, how many Hispanics, how many Muslims voted for Trump, okay, that they're still playing this game, dangerous as it is, we know, even mainstream media, still doing the racist, the misogynist. It's so, okay, it doesn't look like a big group, but we're only watching 15 seconds, and I don't know when this was taken, and I don't know how big the group was, but I do think that a lot of people are just tired of hearing it, and they don't want to hear it anymore, which is good. But that it continues, it pisses me off.
Throughout this election is promising the largest mass deportation
And Antifa now here, Black Bloc waiting.
has ever seen. Promising to Trump's race.
That will be, something that we're just going to have to sit and wait to see what happens with this deportation, right? All right. They promise an awful lot, and then they fail to fulfill their promises, as Trump did in his first term. But okie dokie, listen to this.
Why didn't this work? We're still unpacking
what exactly happened. Some of this is pure racism and misogyny.
White supremacist ideology. Uneducated white women.
Nostalgia for a past that didn't exist.
The headwinds of the economy. Misinformation.
The patriarchy.
The American people have given up on democracy.
Latinos in Texas, a district that's 97% Latino, went 75 percentage points for Donald Trump. Why?
Misogyny.
How much of this is just old-fashioned sexism? How much of this is just old-fashioned misogyny?
It's misogyny from Hispanic men. It's misogyny from black men. Not enough people in this country yet believe in the full equality of women.
Among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny.
Might be race issues.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not.
A lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
I don't put sexism and racism past the United States. I think that for some people that was a factor.
The short answer is the sexism, the misogyny, the racism that is so unquantifiable.
Anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color.
Who are we as a country? And we're starting to find out. And from what I'm seeing right now, I'm not sure I like it.
Okay. Perhaps they didn't vote for Kamala because she sucks. Whatever position she's held, she has not done a very good job. Perhaps that's why. Perhaps because she never answered any questions. Perhaps because people are, oh, right, the economy. That has nothing to do with why people, they just don't like democracy anymore. And they're racist and they're misogynist and they're still doing this. Don't you find that? Just like, give it up. Give it up. Americans are tired of listening to your Democrat bullshit. Not that the Republicans are all that much better, but at least they're not batshit crazy. Yeah, here. Another coup for the Democrats. It's like, oh, you know, you just want, I want my life back, man. I want our collective life back. I want my life back. Because this is really painful to live.
Court thing. The Washington Post says the second resistance starts right now. Newsom is calling an emergency session in California to Trump-proof the state, whatever that means. The New York Attorney General, Tish James, just declared the lawfare campaign not over. She's prepared to fight back. And the governors of Massachusetts, New Jersey, and Illinois are preparing for trench warfare.
Every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our states, and certainly to hold the line on democracy and the rule of law.
As we respect the peaceful transition of power, that if there is any attack on the Garden State or on any of its communities from Washington, I will fight back with every fiber of my being.
To anyone who intends to come take away the freedom and opportunity and dignity of Illinoisans, I would remind you that a happy warrior is still a warrior. You come for my people, you come through me.
The second Trump resistance is coming into focus. It'll be blue state governors clashing with Trump to raise their profiles ahead of the 2028 election. This is a competition to be Trump's biggest nemesis. Who will be this year's Adam Schiff or James Comey? We're about to find out. So watch these figures jockey for position to get on a collision course with 47. Does this help the American people at all? No. But Democrats don't care because so far they've learned nothing from Tuesday.
Well, I don't think they want to learn anything. They just want power. They just want to maintain the power and have it grow. They sure do like the money that those positions do give them in their pockets. But that's a Republican thing as well. But isn't this interesting? The states Harris won versus ID requirements. I know she won Washington, Oregon, and California. But I didn't think that she won in all of these states because it looked mighty red to me. But any state that had, well, no, we have ID required up here. I think that's New Hampshire. How we can allow voting without IDs is really, I mean, it's really quite, well, it's just amusing at this point, right? It's just, what do you do with everything that is taking place in this country? You need an ID for practically everything, but not to vote. Okay, and yeah.
There's this sense, right, that whiteness, right, is under threat. The demographic shifts. The country isn't what all of these racially ambiguous children on Cheerios commercials are confusing the hell out of me. Right?
Hey, a lot of people voted because their life's too damn expensive, and it was here, and
they voted for. You're telling me, Stephanie, that all of these people who believe that their lives are, that bread is too high and eggs are too high, that they voted for a convicted felon, a guy who.
Okay, the convicted felon part. You do know that there is a possibility that they do not certify Trump as president. A convicted felon can't run or be president. So I'm wondering if we're going to hear, and I've already heard it, but if it's going to get louder and louder and louder, that he's a convicted felon for the coup January 6th, which could spark another January 6th insurrection. Let's see. You know, it's a show, and we just have where the audience members that have elected not to participate. Let's just watch.
Who said we can grab the P.
I think that a lot.
They voted for this guy.
I'm not defending it, but I think there are tons of people that don't pay attention to, and I'm not defending it, don't pay attention to politics at all. But while we live in the most prosperous country in the world, people are saying life's not fair. I'm not doing well. My son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else. And
I love you to life.
I love you,
but I do not believe that. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that. They voted for a crook, a person who they know is stealing from, just doing everything to undermine the so-called country that they love. And then they're telling us the BS that it's economics. We know that's not true.
Wow. 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 Okay. It is. Absolutely. We have rising rates, skyrocketing rates of homelessness. People can't afford their rents. People can't find jobs. layoffs have been astronomical just this year. And what the hell is wrong with this guy? What is wrong here? He wants to believe it's because of racism, it's because of misogyny, and they voted for the convicted felon. I guess if we had some white guy for the Democrats who was a presidential candidate, they might have voted for that guy. Really? They can't see that this Kamala is such a fraud? They can't see that she's a joke? Yeah. Okay. These are the people that keep America divided. And what could be taking place in America? So JWTV, new FEMA prison camp found. Why are they putting up these camps? I guess it's for all of the racists, misogynists, those people who just want to see democracy die.
Well, he's found the person that's on the ground down there doing this, working with us. He's found another camp, but this one is different from the other ones. This one is, we got video of it. We're about to play video of it, but we're doing a lot of research into this right now, and we're going to look into this. Energy mechanical service provide emergency service for temporary structures and man camps, including utilities. We are ready for any disaster emergency 24/7. And they have this photo right here. I'm going to play the clip, but what we've been messaging back and forth about is wild. And he's going to be coming on for an interview coming up next week to expose more of this. He's got footages. He got the vehicles rolling in. He's been watching the entire area with good drone footage. We're going to talk about this story, though. Here is the area that he went to, the new area that's in North Carolina. And I said, is this another one? He says, yes. He says, another massive installation. The new stuff is different than the big place we went in. It's definitely more of a lodging center for responders, but it's an empty prison. That's what he told me. This is what we were messaging back and forth. And I said, how long has it been there? He says, I'm not sure, but I believe it was around the same time the other FEMA camp that North Carolinians was talking about. Better timeline. He says, when I hear back from someone, we drove right in again. So he has footage of them going in here, and I'm not going to play that today because once we get the interview, we'll talk about that more. He walked into the cafeteria, then took us into the main office, told them we had a list for contractors to go help people. Guy was very nice and helpful, gave me a phone number for a lady that could provide that list. No armed security. We didn't see strategic security anywhere. There was a large military presence here, though. And he says, let's go down here. I'm gonna just put this in the background. This is the connecting properties, because this FEMA account, I'm gonna talk about it more.
So I will post the link. You can listen to the remainder. The Constitution, JT, may not use the word felon, insurrectionist, insurrection. And that's why they continually say that Trump led the insurrection when it was so not an insurrection. But when you have a population that won't even do a little bit of research on what an insurrection is, you can just say it's an insurrection. And that's it. So, soccer fans in Amsterdam, Israeli soccer fans attacked by mob in Amsterdam. Is that true? Was it really the Israeli? Because that's what mainstream media is saying. It was anti-Semitism. Another mainstream media reporter called it Kristallnacht. Okay, so, I so wish that we had held these liars to account, because they're out. They've been out, certainly after 9/11, lie after lie after lie. All right, so this is what the Wall Street Journal has on this incident. It couldn't be determined what set off the violence, is what this reads. But mainstream media has been claiming that those who attended this soccer game, and I think the Israelis lost, but that it was just, I guess, the Danes just getting very, very upset, and they went berserk and they started to attack all of the Jews. No. So let's listen to what some people have to say about this incident.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but nobody cares that you're Jewish. Like, nobody cares. In fact, all of the super Jews on blue tick Twitter that are speaking about the pogroms in Amsterdam right now. Bro, if you didn't tell me you was Jewish, I wouldn't have known you was Jewish. I would have just thought you was any Becky or Tom or Glenda. Now that I do know that you're Jewish, I still don't give a fuck. Bro, this is not Russia in the 1800s. Like, fucking relax. There's 15,000 Jews that live in Amsterdam. They seemed fine until some Israeli hooligans showed up, started ripping down Palestine flags, chanting death to Arabs, abusing cab drivers, refusing to observe a moment of silence for the Valencia flood victims, saying shit like there are no schools left in Gaza because there are no children left in Gaza. Turns out, when you spend a year making your national anthem, May Your Village Burn, somebody's going to knock your teeth out. Because unlike the ICC and the ICJ, the streets have a quicker judicial process. Naftali Bennett is in his feelings because some Israelis got hurt. The same guy who said about Gaza, he who does not mow the grass mows him. Ain't got shit to do with being Jewish. It's because you're supporting a state that is currently in court for genocide. Israel has killed 120,000 Palestinians, and the Zionists on Twitter are upset that some avocados are damaged. How anti-Semitic. Fucking get over yourself. You guys want to be oppressed so bad. Ben Shapiro was over here wriggling out of identifying as a white man.
Do you not agree that you are a white man?
I mean, I think that it depends on the context in which we're discussing it.
So what are you, Ben? Are you not a white guy?
I mean, I'm a man of Jewish ethnicity, which is sometimes grouped with white and sometimes not. I mean, that's the more accurate way to put it. But when
what
we're
else
talking
would you be
about
grouped with?
Silly shit.
Yeah.
As I was saying to my friend recently, who's Jewish, anti-Semitism today, whether it's perceived or actual, cannot be distinguished from anti-Israel sentiment because people don't care that you're Jewish. They care that you're supporting a sports team that is representing a country that currently has 400,000 people surrounded in the north of Gaza and has not allowed practically a single calorie to enter, has declared all of them combatants, and has spent this entire week repeatedly attacking a hospital where they already removed the doctors from and detained. Nobody cares that you're Jewish, sweetheart. It's 2024. People are doing Uber shares and eating ass. Nobody gives a fuck. Stop being a genocidal psychopath. Now, I'm sure there's some people who didn't have shit to do with shit got hurt in Amsterdam. I'm sure that happens. That always happens. But it ain't got shit to do with you being Jewish. Again, nobody cares. It's because Israel is committing genocide.
Quite right. The mainstream media better stop lying for the Zionists. I care. I care if you're a Zionist. It's, come on. Too many lies coming out of the Israeli government, like the US government, no different. Mainstream media, all of the lies, everything is anti-Semitism. Well, guess what? That term has lost all meaning. People do care that the Zionists, the IDF, are killing people, innocent people, children, a whole lot of them. That's what they care about. So you want to start in another country, you want to start attacking people who have Palestinian flags up or wearing a, what are the scarves, the name of the scarf. You want to act in the stadium when they were calling for a moment of silence for all those who have died in the Valencia floods in Spain. In fact, I believe I do have, I think it's right here, but everybody's calling them hooligans. Violent assholes is what I call them.
Maccabi hooligans were walking around in our city. They were armed and they were attacking people from Amsterdam, mostly people that looked like Arabs or Muslims or people that were wearing Palestinian symbols. And they were tearing down flags from houses, Palestinian flags from houses. They were chanting, "Let the IDF win," to the Arabs. And this is actually part of a longer chant, which also includes, "There are no schools in Gaza because there are no children left." And these people, they brought banners with them. They brought stickers with them. One of the stickers I saw myself said, we make war for fun, or we have war for fun. They were glorifying genocide. So of course, people from Amsterdam, they got really angry, and actually one of them ended up in the canal. That was a counter attack, you could say. And there was actually a lot of police response, but it was mostly directed at the pro-Palestinian protesters. The media coverage in the Netherlands, it was, as far as I've seen, very one-sided. Titles like a pogrom happening in Amsterdam, like people that were Jew hunting, and that was the frame, that these attacks on these Maccabi hooligans were actually anti-Semitic attacks, and completely leaving out the context in which all of this happened. And that context is not only the initial violence that was being used by the Maccabi hooligans, but it is also the Dutch government being complicit in the genocide. I think this is actually a well-known Zionist tactic to provoke, to attack, and then to play the victim.
When you have an agenda, this is what you do. It doesn't matter if it's the Israelis. If you have an agenda and this is going to get you a little bit further down the road, they go for it. I hate it. I really hate it. Because when the true anti-Semitism happens, you know, a whole lot of people just at this point roll their eyes. And this is another person talking about what happened in Amsterdam.
So 2 days ago, Zionist hooligans from the Tel Aviv Football Club, they came to Amsterdam because they had a match against Ajax. As we predicted, they were very violent. They roamed the streets with around 200 people at the same time. They would take down Palestine flags everywhere which they would see them. And we have footage of them singing a song that there are no schools in Gaza anymore because they burned all the children. Simultaneously, they also attacked a cab driver who spoke out against them. We all knew that this was going to happen because the football club already stated before the match, before coming here, that they were going to bring Israeli Secret Service, the Mossad. So we knew that they were going to be violent. And we also knew that amongst them supporters, a lot of them are IDF soldiers who have on their Facebook footage of being enlisted in the same army that's committing genocide. Who it is, we requested the municipality, the football club, to cancel the match or at least allow the supporters here. They were violent as fuck. No media outlets responded to this. The only way we know is because as a movement, we got quite good at sharing footages with each other. In fact, 2 days when they were being violent, the moment they harassed one of the taxi drivers, they got a response. Thing is, the taxi drivers here, as I think all over the world, are quite well connected with each other. So within no time, over 100 taxi drivers came to the city center and chased the hooligans away. Chased them towards the casino, or some of them would jump in the canals. What do you expect if you come to our streets and sing about burning Gaza down? It was all before the match even happened. Yesterday, the match happened. And I remember driving to my work at 9:30 in the morning, and I was driving on the highway and like 5 or 6 buses from the riot police were passing me. 9:30 in the morning, the match was at night. The whole city was tense. After the match, there were clashes. On one hand, the Zionist hooligans, they were also again burning shit down in our streets because they lost the match with 5-0. I mean, I'm still upset with Ajax for their responding to.
When you have seen over and over and over again an awful lot of IDF soldiers acting, you know, as they're killing children and innocent women and men, and they're literally mocking the Palestinians as they're killing them. And when you see that kind of behavior from an awful lot, I mean, there's still videos up, new videos, you know, of them acting like, I mean, you want to talk evil? Are you going to believe mainstream media that it was, you know, the residents of Amsterdam going after the Jews? It's a pogrom, Kristallnacht, which is, well, really, who are you going to believe? But when it comes to the IDF, when it comes to Mossad, when it comes to the Zionists, it's kind of like when it comes to the U.S. government, when it comes to the U.S. military, when it comes to U.S. intel, who are you going to believe? And when you hear from so many people who were there, very different story from mainstream media, who are you going to believe? When you have people who are talking about an experience, especially those who are there to have witnessed the experience or involved in the experience, when they have a very different story from mainstream media or just ordinary people who, okay, there's a different story I'm hearing from this person. And so how do you know who's telling the truth? Well, in this case, when it's against mainstream media, you can feel pretty confident going with the people. But that's why I hate lying, because you're left with, well, I guess I'm just going to go with this, person. And I'm not talking about, this kind of, I'm not talking about mainstream media and government officials. I'm talking about ordinary people. It has pissed me off to no end because someone's lying, and a whole lot of people, if they don't really know the person, they don't know who to believe. And then an awful lot just presume things, and then they leap to judgment. It's a horrible way to be living.
The Maccabi fans have been here since Wednesday, and they have wreaked havoc everywhere. They've been chanting horrible things, especially also what is happening in Gaza. They've vandalized numerous buildings. They've ripped off Palestinian flags. They've been inciting for violence, and they have only been protected by the police. In the past few days, we've been seeing the hooligans of Maccabi inciting for violence on Arabs. They've been chanting horrible things about Arabs, not just the people in Gaza, but in general. This has made me feel incredibly unsafe, and none of this, as the municipality and some media are framing it, is about the Jewish people. It is not about the Jewish people. It is about the occupation, the annexation, breach of international law, breach of human rights. That is why we are against Maccabi coming to play here, and I still cannot believe that they have been allowed to play.
From the moment that they've arrived, it was already very concerning. Last week, I've seen pictures of a pro-Palestinian or a person wearing a keffiyeh being beaten to the ground by people associated with a football team. And the day before yesterday, I've heard of windows being smashed of houses that were flying a Palestinian flag. I've heard of girls being spit at because they were wearing a hijab. And of course, yesterday there has been violence, and I must say, I think from both sides. I was at Dam Square yesterday, where the Israeli supporters were gathered since 3 in the afternoon. I've seen them intimidating groups of Arab-looking youth. They were shouting and chanting, "Fuck Gaza, fuck Palestina." I've heard of songs saying there's no school left in Gaza because there are no children. And I find it all quite concerning. I find the fact that a football club from Israel gets invited to Amsterdam through the UEFA concerning. Our politics and our media frames these protests and certain things as anti-Semitic. While at protests, I've seen a lot of Jewish voices speaking out against what is happening in Palestine.
By allowing the UEFA match to happen in Amsterdam between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax, the municipality of Amsterdam invited thousands of Tel Aviv Maccabi Israeli hooligans, former IDF soldiers. The Mossad came along to the city of Amsterdam, creating an unsafe space. People were afraid to wear the keffiyeh, to wear any Palestinian symbols. There was so much an unsafe space in Amsterdam. And the municipality of Amsterdam created this space by allowing these people to come to the city.
And I don't know what exactly Dutch politicians expected, bringing in hundreds of genocide killers into our city and into our country. But I think I can speak for the whole pro-Palestine movement if I say these people are not welcome here.
Well,
since when?
when you see this kind of behavior, and you've been seeing it in the most moral army in the world, apparently, according to Netanyahu, Israelis, you are it's not good. It's not good. And somehow the people really needed to rein in that kind of behavior, because now people around the world will automatically think that, yeah, when they see this kind of stuff happening, they'll immediately think, oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the Israelis. Everybody gets affected. There's a ripple effect. And I wish our world was, more sane, but I think somebody asked me to post the link to this video of that man speaking. So it's, I can't believe that this is life now, like everything is just so flippin' evil. And, the US elections, and Trump won, and, who the hell are we as a people if the American people are not screaming about what is taking place in Gaza, in the West Bank, now in Lebanon and Syria, which, I mean, Israel is fighting so many different countries now, and unfortunately losing, because I've listened to an awful lot talk about how the IDF is not winning. They're losing. And a whole lot of IDF soldiers are dying. So you would think that the Israeli people would want all of these wars ended. Enough. And then maybe do some reflection on what you're doing to people who are not Israeli. So, and so apparently the ultra-Orthodox in Israel are very against Zionism and very against the IDF. Come on in, honey. And they are not, signing up as it's mandated in Israel for Israeli citizens to spend, I think it's 2 years in the IDF. Well, now, because they're losing so many soldiers, and I haven't verified this myself, but I've heard it from, I actually listened to a very good interview today. Larry Wilkinson and Wilkerson and Scott Ritter, and they were talking about, the IDF is not doing very well at all. But one of them said that they're going after the ultra-Orthodox because they need more soldiers in the IDF, and the ultra-Orthodox refuse. So what's happening? Now they're getting beaten. So why are the Israeli people or the Israeli police beating up their own people? because they're not their own people. The Zionists, first of all, that's an ideology. The ultra-Orthodox they speak out against Zionism. So these are very different people. They might be Jews, but they're very different than a whole lot of the Israelis. An evil, man, it is not selective. It will turn on its own. We've seen that happen over and over and over again. Look at what's happening to Americans. And when you see this, northern Gaza, mass graveyard. And Trump is not in office yet. And I don't think very many Americans care at all. I don't think that this is just the Israelis or the Zionists. No, we're in there. We're in bed with Biden. If Israel didn't exist, we would have to create it. Helps out with that Middle East strategy. This is northern Gaza. Beachfront property. I guess a lot of people have feelings. A lot of people around the world have feelings about a whole people being genocided. And not quietly. They post their own videos of their immature behavior that's an understatement. Yeah. So there was an official report that revealed that the Israeli forces dropped 85,000 plus tons of bombs and explosives on Gaza. Where do you think they got those bombs from? USA, USA, USA. The scale of destruction exceeds the power of the Hiroshima bomb by 5 times. And yeah, okay. Caitlin Johnstone. Link is in the chat. Just going to play a few minutes. But yeah. What is really amazing to me is that a lot on the right, if they're not evangelical Christians, don't like the Zionists. This guy's a Zionist.
Trump puts an appropriately ugly face on a very ugly empire. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. The only thing I like about Trump is exactly what so many empire managers hate about him. He gives the game away. He says the quiet parts out loud. He's the only president who will openly boast that U.S. troops are in Syria to keep the oil, or lament that they failed to take the oil from Venezuela, or just come right out and tell everyone he is bought and owned by Zionist oligarchs. Trump is the opposite of Obama, who was very skillful at putting a pretty face on the evil empire. Trump puts a very ugly face on a very ugly thing. He is a much more honest face to have on the empire. A crude, stupid plutocrat who is owned by other plutocrats is the perfect representative of that tyrannical power structure. The propaganda machine has been spinning its head off, trying to frame soccer brawls in Amsterdam as a horrific pogrom against Jewish people because the side initiating the violence were supporters of Team Maccabi Tel Aviv who flew in from Israel. Video evidence shows far-right Israeli hooligans terrorizing the streets of Amsterdam, chanting, "Fuck the Arabs," starting fights, beating people, tearing down Palestinian flags, attacking a cab driver, and singing, "Let the IDF win and fuck the Arabs. Why is school out in Gaza? There are no children left there." In the face of all this evidence of atrocious behavior by Israeli soccer fans, the New York Times ran a story with the headline, "Anti-Semitic attacks prompt emergency flights for Israeli soccer fans." The Wall Street Journal ran with, "Anti-Semitic attacks in Amsterdam prompt tight security at Jewish sites." The Telegraph says, "Pogroms have returned to Europe, and the anti-racist left are silent." Meanwhile, the Daily Mail sports section ran with a headline more in line with what people actually saw. Israeli football hooligans tear down Palestinian flags in Amsterdam as taxi drivers fight back in night of chaos ahead of Maccabi Tel Aviv's visit to Ajax. Leaders of Western nations like the US, UK, Canada, and France joined the Dutch king in framing these soccer brawls and hooliganism as historic mass-scale hate crimes against Jews, while Israeli officials have been melodramatically shrieking like their hair is on fire. These exhausting, victim-larping freaks. Stop playing sports with Israel. Stop holding sporting events which could lead to the deranged members of a genocidal apartheid state showing up in your community, stirring up violence and hate so they can cry victim and say you holocausted them. Another thing that sucks about the fake anti-Semitism crisis that the Western political media class are pretending to believe in is that it will probably become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy which creates real hatred of Jewish people.
Yeah.
You can't keep telling everyone over and over and over again that Jews and Israel are one and the same, and that any criticism of one is always necessarily an attack on the other, while the state of Israel is murdering children by the tens of thousands, without contributing to unfair prejudice against Jewish people everywhere. Israel is exacerbating this effect by insisting its actions represent all Jews and are done in defense of Judaism, while committing genocidal atrocities under a Star of David flag. If you understand the truth that modern Israel is a settler colonialist project of the Western Empire which uses the Jewish religion as an excuse to inflict violence and tyranny in a crucial geostrategic region, then you understand that there is no real connection between modern Israel and the Jews you encounter in your community. Sure, a majority of Western Jews buy into the empire's lies and support Israel, but a majority of the Westerners of all faiths buy into the empire's lies about its wars and official enemies and all its other propaganda, too. This is just what it looks like when you live in a highly propagandized society, which is structured to psychologically manipulate people into consenting to nonstop military violence. Once you understand this, you see that blaming ordinary Jews in your society for the actions of the State of Israel makes about as much sense as blaming ordinary Muslims for the actions of the Saudi royals. But most people don't understand this.
Yeah, and I
It takes a
don't.
lot of learning and close examination, and most people haven't reached that level of lucidity in our confusing information landscape, which is distorted by lies and propaganda. So when they see a self-evidently evil thing being done, and hear their leaders and pundits telling them over and over again that if you hate what you are seeing, then you necessarily hate Jewish people, what understanding do you think they are going to form in their minds? Greater hatred and prejudice looks like a fairly inevitable consequence of this messaging from where I'm sitting. And it will all be the fault of the Western pundits and politicians who are aggressively promulgating this message throughout our society right now in an effort to stomp out criticism of an active genocide. Tweet from political analyst Sherry Jacobus. Netanyahu bombs and obliterates a school in Gaza. He did this because we just elected Trump, who told him to finish it off, and this is what he meant. To the Arab voters in Michigan who voted for Trump, this is on you. Comment from Caitlin. This tweet is awesome because this person clearly believes this is the very first time this has happened. She literally just began paying attention to Gaza airstrikes because Trump won. She's been completely uninterested the entire time Biden was backing this shit. The garment-rending emotional reaction to the U.S. election results, compared to the apathy on Gaza over the last year, tells you that liberals don't see Palestinians as human beings. They'll deny it, but it's true. Their emotions show you much more than their words ever will. This is who they are. Ignore their words and watch their actions. It works with politicians, it works with entire governments, and it works with individuals too. If you see someone flailing around on the ground because their genocidal candidate lost, after spending a year walking around functioning perfectly fine throughout a year of genocide, that tells you something about them that their words would never tell you. People are always much more honest with their actions than their words, because their words can spin narratives and actions cannot. If you're ever unsure about someone's true motivations and where they really stand, don't ask them, just watch them. They'll tell you eventually, with their actions and not their words.
Exactly. And what I've been saying for a long time, whenever I'm, talking about what's happening in Israel and Palestine, and that, there's a lot of people all over the world that do not think well. They don't know really how to think. And so they see this kind of behavior taking place with the IDF and Mossad and all of these Maccabee hooligans, right? And they can't see that it's the difference between the Zionists and Jews. There's a big, big difference. There's so many Jews who are so against the Israeli government, the IDF, everything that the IDF is doing. Okay. But unfortunately, there's this black and white dichotomous thinking that's where most people are. And whatever group it is, I hate to see the innocent get thrown in with those who are not innocent, and then they have to suffer the consequences. Trump is a Zionist pig. I don't want to say pig because pigs are cool. I mean, he's also, he came out and said that, anybody who makes, any kind of hateful remarks about Jews or Israel, and that he's going to jail them. That's a paraphrase of mine. That's a dictator. So this, if you're asking, what is that channel? It's Caitlin Johnstone. The link is in the chat for that video. But she's a writer and then has a channel where all of what she writes is then spoken on the YouTube channel. And when you know that there are an awful lot of children who are desperate for food, children are not terrorists. We know that, right? Okay. But when they are denied food, and those who deny them the food make fun of them while they're eating pastries. Okay, there are a lot of Israelis who are rabid Zionists, but don't think they all are. But yeah, I mean, evil has really, well, it's got a foothold in so many countries, and everybody who's evil, hey, come right on out of the closet and just display your evil mind, behavior, heart. Well, there wasn't the good soldiers fighting back the evil. And we all know all you need for evil to spread is a whole lot of good people sitting around doing nothing.
Lulu, go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.
So you obviously got the most press out of this recent report that you did for the Gray Zone about the Iranian missile strike. But I would like to show everybody this piece of reporting, which went kind of viral, that you did back in March, just to give people a sense of the kind of work that you do. And, you know, I joked in the last segment, you must be heartbroken that you can't go back, but it is a loss that you can't go back because you've done some amazing work over there. So this was a report you did back in March. For a week, I embedded myself with Jewish Israeli nationalists who believe it's a worthy cause and religious duty to block desperately needed humanitarian aid at the Gaza border. They enjoyed pastries with the military while confessing to war crimes and cheering for genocide. So this is about a 3-minute video that you put out. I want to show everybody this.
The police man, the head commander, came to us and said, okay, you guys came and blocked. We don't want to fight. And he said to us, I'll just lock the gate. You guys don't need to stand in the sun. We got lollipops. We got watermelon from the police. Lollipops and watermelons. Yeah, watermelons, and was great with them.
I know all about them. I don't trust them. I want them out of here.
What do you think should happen to Gaza?
I want to be civilized with Jews from Israel.
Well, they need to reflect on what is the meaning of civilized.
My unit was in charge of explosions. We blew up houses of terrorists, mosque, UN offices. I remember we got into some UN office that was in charge of helping families in Gaza that was affected by the war, and we destroyed it.
We give pastries for the people, for the soldiers, for the cops, for everybody. This is what we give to our people. This is real humanitarian, okay? They need to block the aid to Gaza. They need to block the gas to Gaza. everything to black, and this is what we do every week, 2, 3, 4 times a week. And as the Bible says, this place is for us. It's promised for us, so they can starve to death to pay on the things that they've done to us on the 7th of October.
אנחנו נכנסים, צריך להיכנס חזרה לעזה ולהשתלט שם על המדינה. להשתלט שתהיה מדינה שלנו.
Bibi is a puppet of Biden. Because we cleaned all Gaza, except in Rafiah. Why aren't we going in there? Because Biden asked us not to. That's the only reason. There's
No,
no
you got your way
reason
eventually,
not
son.
to.
So that's obviously a chilling report. And
well, that's actually just a 3-minute trailer to a longer 30-minute documentary I made.
Oh,
yeah. You have to be mentally deranged. You are mentally deranged. It is such a evil disease, to not care about all of these people. Let them starve to death while you're eating a pastry. Wow. Well, it's not just the IDF. Think about what the Americans, those soldiers, did in all of the countries that we have gone in to steal their resources and kill so many innocent people. It truly is it's a very, talk about the indoctrination, but talk about how deranged you have to be to think like that. And again, it's not just the IDF. Americans, a whole lot of them, those soldiers. You got to hate the enemy so much that you don't care that they're subhuman, they're worthy of only death. So I'm just going to play this because it's true. This is another Caitlin Johnstone, which I will link to. And it's relatively short, but this ends the live stream for tonight. But yeah, we've got to think about who we are as a people. Why? Why have Americans allowed their government, their military, to kill millions of innocent people, take over their countries, and we just go on living like nothing is happening? Oh, there's a lot happening.
Hearts are full of shit. Gaza tells us who we are. Some days it's hard to say which is more horrific, the Gaza genocide itself or the moral decay throughout our society which makes it possible. I mean, the atrocities in Gaza have a couple million victims. If you add up the populations of the US, Europe, Canada, and Australia, you've got around 1 billion people living in a dystopia whose collective conscience is so warped and twisted that they'd allow their government to support a live-streamed genocide in full view of the entire world. 1 billion people who are so morally bankrupt that they find it tolerable for such a nightmare to be inflicted upon their fellow human beings right in front of them. This has been especially pronounced during the heat of a U.S. presidential race, with tens of millions of voters falling all over themselves to cognitively sweep Gaza under the carpet so they can throw their support behind one of the two mainstream candidates who've both pledged to support the Zionist state, which is perpetrating this genocide. At best, they see Israel's crimes as an annoying side issue, which the left keeps disrupting their Kamala parties about. And at worst, they support Israel's actions entirely. What a pointless, meaningless, soulless way to live. What a betrayal of truth and of our own humanity. How could anyone possibly find satisfaction in that kind of zombie-like existence, mindlessly shuffling along to the beat of the status quo, devouring human flesh because it's more comfortable than the cognitive dissonance which would come with divorcing the power-serving worldview you've been indoctrinated from birth into espousing? I was listening to an interview with the doctor who worked in Gaza during the genocide, and he discussed the time many months ago when the IDF forced the evacuation of a hospital and left 4 premature babies to die in their incubators after assuring the staff they'd be taken care of. Their tiny bodies were found decomposing weeks later after Israeli forces cleared out of the area. How did that one incident, just by itself, not stop the world? How did it not stop us all in our tracks and force us to reevaluate everything that led to this point? It wasn't a secret that those 4 babies died. It was in the mainstream news. It was right there, right in front of us, and we did nothing. Such atrocities have been happening on a daily basis for 13 months now, and still nothing. We've got to live like this. We've got to live in this genocidal dystopia, surrounded by shambling sleepwalkers covered in human blood. Our lives here in the West are far, far more comfortable than the lives of people in Gaza, but they are also far less truthful and far less capable of nourishing the human spirit. We marinate in lies and psychopathy, watch lies and psychopathy, eat, drink, sleep, and breathe lies and psychopathy. Our minds are full of garbage, and our hearts are full of shit, and we are wading around up to our ankles in the blood, sweat, and tears of the global South. This festering sore of a civilization is the only soil in which the Western-backed genocide in Gaza could take root. The people in Gaza have to suffer the consequences of who we are and what we have become, but we have to live with who we are and what we have become. We're killing their babies and leaving them to rot, but we're the ones who have to live with the corpses of rotting babies in our souls. One way or another, the killing in Gaza will end one day. But the forces within us which gave rise to that butchery will live on long after the sounds of the drones and explosions have ceased. We will have to live like that. We will have to live knowing this is who we are.
Yeah. We're already living a dystopia, in a dystopian evil. And people talk about, who is civilized and who is not. What did Gandhi say? When he was asked about what did he think of Western civilization? And he said he thought it was a good idea. So yeah, I am one who really longs to live in something that is very different than what we have manifested. And we've all manifested this. Yeah, you can't escape your own ripple effects. You know, that's why it's so important to live honestly and speak honestly and face your own truth. It is true that Americans have not cared about all of the innocent people that we have killed all over the place. Americans don't care. On the whole, of course, there are a few that do, but the majority don't care that we are also killing children in Israel, like we've killed children in Iraq, and we steal their oil. At least Trump was honest about he's going to maintain troops in Syria. This was during his term as president, to guard the oil fields that we stole in Syria. You can't feel good about yourself if this is who you've become. Apathetic, not caring. Because that also, well, that's not selective. So you see an awful lot of Americans who don't care about their own. The elderly, how do we take care of the elderly? We don't. Look at the children who are suffering in these classrooms. American adults needed to stand up, put a stop to it. Yeah, I want to live a very different life. But I guess this is what we're stuck with. Thank you for showing up. I hope to see you tomorrow night. Get out there. You know, if you're on the side of good, then that goodness is manifested into something real in your communities. You know, take care of the elderly in your community. You know, help out with the food banks, help out with the animal shelters. There's a lot of help that needs to be done. And most importantly, get yourself right. Get yourself right. Living honestly and speaking honestly is very difficult in our country. And most don't. And they don't even realize it. Because, yeah, we are very much the people of the lie. But ask yourself, am I living rightly? What does that mean to you? So on that note, yeah, there's work to be done. And it's exhausting. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Ciao, guys.